Hey, this is Brimster, and I just want to go through some items that I think should be that are a problem with Season 6. First of all, ancestral items are too rare. Like, I can do a whole bunch of Nightmare Dungeons, or Undercity, or Pit, or Infernal Hordes, or Helltide, and I might get like 2 or 3 ancestral items. Then you've got the fact that on those items, like if you're looking for an upgrade, might need to get plus to a skill or a particular set of skills on an item, and getting those particular skills on an item is incredibly difficult. And you can't enchant to them anyway, because the chance of enchanting to some of those skills is like only a couple of percent. And if you pay attention, then getting just the right stats on them. And it's also meaning that you're not upgrading your codex, because some of the affixes that you're aiming for are literally only on like 1% of items or less. They're incredibly rare, and when they drop on a ancestral and you go, oh my lord, it's the that some of these I've only seen on one ancestral, and then it rolls low in the stat chance. So your chance of upgrading your codex is just really bad. The ancestral system, with them being able to roll at the bottom end of the affix on them, and the fact that they're so rare, and the fact that you're getting just terrible rolls on them almost every time they drop, just means that you're not finding gear. And if it's on the Spiritborn, where I'm able to just plow through content, it'd be fine. If I was on a class where I couldn't do that, you would just never get the items you need. Runes, the rune system, runes are just too rare overall. Like, you can get them from farming bosses, and they're like a 20% drop chance if you get them from farming bosses. But the fact that you need to get the legendary ones, which are incredibly rare, and you need half a dozen of them in order to get your mythic. It took me, I think I was session 23 before I got the rune I needed for my build, the final rune I needed for my build, and some of them I'm using are only blue runes. They're just incredibly hard to get, even if you're running the Undercity for them. They just come through so incredibly rarely. One of the suggestions I saw for them was having the jewel crafter give you the ability to actually gamble with gem fragments for runes, because gem fragments, they're useless, and they drop all the time. You get to the point where some players are actually burning them and turning them into gems, or trying to convert them between one type and another, so that they actually don't get the I can't carry that problem. Whereas if you could gamble on them with the to gamble into runes, that actually might be a nice way of doing it. With, maybe 60% of them are blue, 30% of them are yellow, and 10% of them come out as legendary if you gamble. But of course, the other problem with the jeweler is, if you do rune crafting, there's an 85% chance that you get a rune of the same quality, which means that most of the time, and it's almost all of the time, you're never seeing an upgrade. I think I've done maybe 50 or 60 upgrades, and I think I've had 2, maybe 3 that have actually upgraded in level. It's just really, really rare, and you're just burning through runes that are very hard to get anyway, and it's just a negative experience. Mythic drop rates have been completely nerfed on bosses. You will do bosses, and I've done a couple of hundred bosses, I've seen 1 mythic drop. Fortunately for me, it was actually, I think I've seen 2 now, but fortunately for me, one of them was the one I wanted. No, I got one of them from running the tribute in Undercity. But I've seen 1 drop from like a couple of hundred boss kills. Now, that could be RNG, but it is definitely like 1% or lower. And at lower torment levels, you'd have almost no chance of getting them, I think. And not everything can run Torment 4 just flat out. One of the things I think they could do to fix this is, people aren't wanting to gamble. They can't get the runes to craft the one they want, because runes are so rare, and people aren't wanting to gamble, because if they gamble and they get the wrong one, they've just burnt all their resplendent sparks. I think a way of fixing this might be if you added a low drop chance of a resplendent spark dropping from the end of most of the things. End of Nightmare Dungeons, even just 0.5% or 1%. End of a pit run, 0.5%, 1%. End in the materials cache at the end of Infernal Hordes, 1%. put it, make it that, and do a boss run and on bosses, give them like a 5% chance of getting a Resplendent Spark. Because if you get Resplendent Sparks, you then burn them on your gambling. And when you burn them on your gambling, you've still got only like a 1 in 12 chance of getting the actual legendary you want, the mythic unique you want anyway. So you get those, you get a couple of them in like 5 or 6 hours, and then you get a chance at your mythic. I think that would be a nice way of fixing that up. Boss items should stack much larger. These are just stacking only to 50 is just terrible. These stacking to 200 might be better. These stacking to, I think even making them stack to like 1,000 or 999 would be perfectly reasonable. They just stack too small. They just take too much space. Now, items I raised on a video a couple of years ago, or before season 1, that I still think are valid. First one is storage. I made a suggestion back early on that every character should have 2 stash tabs that are unique to them. So each character would have a couple of stash tabs, and anything put in that is only available to that character. And then you'd have half a dozen, I think it should be 7 to 8 stash tabs, which are account wide. So if you just wanted to store stuff that is for your character, you could do that. So if you're running 14 characters, you can actually store some alternate gear for your characters in those stash tabs and have those, have different builds, be collecting stuff for those characters without having to manage all of this inventory in a terrible way. Those 2 stash tabs are for this character. The other thing you could do is then, if you want to move stuff between your account, or you're getting something that is generic for your whole account, you still have your 6, 7, or 8 stash tabs for your entire account wide. I think that is be a good way to do it and would manage the inventory a lot better for pretty much everyone. The other one is, and everyone mentions this, the game should have a build wardrobe where you can go to your wardrobe, not necessarily the one that's here, but maybe, and be able to change out not just your appearance, but your build. This would change your paragon. You build a paragon, you pay for it, you unlock slots. They could be expensive, your first, and then you switch between them. You still, if you want to respec within those, you still have your paragon and your respec slots, but you literally, it's like in Diablo 3, it just completely switches out your build to a different one, so people feel comfortable exploring a different build. The way it works now is if I wanted to try a different Spiritborn build, I would level a new Spiritborn, and I think that's a stupid way of doing it. I think these are the main things that if they fixed those, that would be a massive improvement. The Ancestral Legendary drop rates, the boss material stacking, the runes and the mythic drop rates, I think are the big ones. The storage issues everyone's been talking about for ages. Anyway, they're the issues I think I've got. Let's see if Blizzard ever addresses them.